live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
It's time to wake up and get driving in the fast lane here on Beaver County Radio. It's the morning show that talks about what's happening in the news, locally, regionally, and nationally. There's also music to get you started for the day. It's all brought to you by Patriot Home Care. And now, here is the host of the show, Frank Sparks.
And we are back here on Driving in the Fast Lane. It is hour number 2 of the day. Well, I guess it's hour number 3, technically. But joining me in studio now is Steve Higgins from the Larry Bruno Foundation. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Frank. Wonderful to be here.
Yeah, it's a good day. I mean, there's a lot going on this weekend, too. So, I mean, it's a good time to talk sports.
There's a lot going on, but boy, doesn't it feel like lonely because of the high school playoffs? We're used to having multiple teams, in the semis, and
we got 2.
If I'm correct, I mean, Elwood's in Lawrence County, but it's local.
Yeah.
One team from Beaver County?
Yep, Central Valley.
When's the last time that happened, Frank? I can't remember.
Well, we know that we have our first time in, 17 years of possibly not going to Acrisure Stadium because we always went because the Quips were there every year.
Well, I think the PIAA and the Whitfield got what they wanted, didn't they? They didn't want Aliquippa in that finals, I think, this year, and they got their wish. And I tell you what, it doesn't leave a good taste in our mouth because if our home team's not there in Beaver County, we're the type of fans that will root for
whoever,
the local teams, right? So I find myself, although Beaver Falls is my home team and they've been in the playoffs the last 4 years, when they are not there, I'm rooting for the Quips. Or
Absolutely.
I'm rooting for, Beaver or whoever at CV.
That was shocking last week, the Beaver. I thought, Beaver had already beaten Avonworth once. I thought that would be, not that they lost, I thought that would be a little better football game than it was. I mean, Avonworth just came in and dominated the Bobcats last week.
I tell you what, I think they really used that loss to their advantage, that regular season loss to Beaver, because I was at the game, and boy, they came out on fire. That number 7 for Avonworth, Beaver just couldn't tackle him.
Wow.
And he ran up and down the field on them. And at the end of the first half, they had a pretty big lead. Beaver did come out and play pretty tough in the second half, but it's hard to beat a good playoff team twice in one year, no matter who you are.
Right. And we knew TJ was good, but we didn't think TJ was would be that dominant over Aliquippa. Thought it would be a lot better football game there as well.
Well, Frank, it's one of those years that I've noticed that the other teams in the 4A were really good.
Absolutely.
It was a good 4A section this year because of Montour, because of TJ, Aliquippa, of course. But Montour, wow, what a team they had the last couple of years. And, it just seems kind of weird not having, BFs down this year. They're usually in the playoffs. Quips are always there.
Right.
It just has a weird feeling this year, Frank.
Lots of surprises this year. I mean, we knew Elwood City was good, but did we know Elwood City was this good?
Well, I think that's how coaching really comes through in high school.
Yeah.
They got that new coach this year, and that guy just brought so much enthusiasm to that squad. And historically, Elwood's always been pretty tough. I mean, even back when I was playing football, they never beat us, but
it was always a decent game.
They never beat Beaver Falls, but they always gave us a good game, and they were always formidable. Their athletes were always, as good as anyone's.
Right.
It was just one of those things where they just didn't seem like to have enough of it, to keep up with the Butlers, the Newcastles, the Beaver Fallses in that section. And that's another thing. The section that they play in is arguably the best in the state year in, year out.
Absolutely.
So, it's hard when you're competing in a section like that.
Yeah. I mean, the MAC's always been a great section.
Always.
I mean, that's always been the thing.
They started that section in 56. 1956 was the first year. Coach Bruno had a lot to do with forming the MAC.
That's cool.
And again, year in, year out, one of the top conferences in the state. But it is really refreshing to see Elwood in the playoffs this year. I wish a couple more local teams were there, but I'm really rooting for the Wolverines. I'm really rooting for CV. Now, CV is another thing, Frank. You know, now with the playoff system, the way it's set up, you could have a couple losses and still make the playoffs,
right,
opposed to when you and I were in school and you had to go undefeated.
Right.
Okay. So now you're seeing some of these teams in there, and what Mark Lyons has done, he kind of realized that, hey, okay, I could have a couple losses and still make the playoffs. And he loaded up on his schedule the early part of the season. And it's just like Larry Bruno used to do. You know, we used to scrimmage McKeesports in camp every year. So before we left camp every year, we basically got our butt whipped by a big Pittsburgh school, okay? But you know what? That toughened us up.
Right.
Our second scrimmage was against North Allegheny.
Right.
Now, come on.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So our first two scrimmages are against McKeesport and North Allegheny. When we started our section, oh boy, we were ready.
Right.
And I think that's what Mark is doing. You know, he's playing these big teams early. He's maybe taking it on the chin a little bit. You know, he had some losses this year. But once you get into section play, and section play now dictates, okay, you can have a couple losses and still make it. So you could afford to schedule these tough teams early. So I think every team should do that.
I used to ask all the time, for quite a few years, I was on Joe Urcita's staff for softball. And I used to always ask him that because he did exactly that. We would play these crazy teams that were hard when we played our early season games. You know, then we got to section play, we were ready. And I asked him why, and that's exactly why. So, I mean, the good coaches and the older coaches seem to try and line up like that so that way they're you know, I mean, so what if you take a couple losses to start the year? Look where Lions is and look where everybody else is at this point.
He learned that from Larry Bruno. You know, from playing for Beaver Falls and going through what he did. You know, he's scrimmaged the same teams that I did.
Right.
And you see what it does to your team. You see how it toughens up your team.
Builds character. Lots of
character. Builds character, you know. Even if you're expecting to have a really good team that year, you as a coach, you kind of want to see a little, what's the word I'm looking for? A little competition.
Yeah.
Early in the season.
Well, it's good to see your team when everything's hunky dory and you're great when you're winning. But it's good to see how your team's going to come together and how they're going to form when they're down.
Isn't that
when they're getting their butts kicked? How are they going to perform at that point in time? And that's a lot of times what forms the team and brings the team together, and they play for each other at that point.
Right. I mean, it's amazing that you have to have the courage to schedule these schools. You know, your AD has to be on board with the coach, and you have to say, hey, you know what, we have a chance to play this team, but we're probably not going to win. Right. You know, but sometimes it's still okay to go ahead and schedule a game like that.
Well, it's fortunate because my AD was Joe. Whenever I still call him Coach U. Yeah, when I was coaching basketball, Coach U was the AD, so we were fortunate he scheduled games for us. So.
Yeah, I'm
but,
sure
I mean,
he was a good AD.
I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, and to watch your team perform and to see. You know, everybody the first 2-3 weeks of the year we're talking about Central Valley and how down Central Valley was. But in realism, they weren't. I mean, once they got into section play and started playing,
they have talent. I mean, my daughter attended CV the last 4 years. She's a freshman at IUP now. So I've watched a lot of CV football the last 4 years.
Right.
And they have 2 running backs on this team this year that are very, very good. The Mason Dixon and the Jance Henry. Both top quality running backs. They have a quarterback with some experience in Rutherford. And, you know, hey, Mark's going to have them guys ready, you know. But I'm glad to see that they made the playoffs. And then once they got into playoffs, you see what's happening. You know, they're still playing. So, I think now with the way the playoff system's set up that, you know, you could have a couple losses going in. If I was a coach, I would have some really tough scrimmages early in the year. And if I had an open date early in the year, I wouldn't be afraid to schedule a team that would be really, you know, hard for us to beat, but kind of add that gauge to the thing just to see where you're at. I wouldn't hesitate to schedule these tough teams. You know?
So let's shift gears a little bit here. So when it comes to this year's schedule, what team besides Aliquippa was the most surprising to you that they're no longer in it? To me, it has to be Beaver.
Next to Aliquippa losing, where they did, I think maybe, let me think now, Beaver definitely.
Southside's another one. I thought Southside would go a lot deeper than they did.
And I kind of thought Western Beaver would hang around a little bit longer. Southside, every so many years, they have a great team down there.
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers aren't huge. Yeah. So every so many years, they get it together, and they have a great team. They have some Whitfield championships under their belt.
Last couple of years, they've been pretty good. So they're one of those streaks where they've got a decent team.
Right. Now, I think at the smaller level schools, the 1A, 2A, 3A coaching is paramount.
Right.
Paramount. I mean, if you have a good coach, you can more or less navigate your way through, a lot of wins at that point, rather than being at a bigger school where the talent just overwhelms you. If you have a great coach at a smaller level school, a huge advantage. But, yeah, you're right. Southside was a little bit of a surprise. Yeah. I thought Western Beaver, this might be their year to make the championship. I could remember back in the day, in the 70s, how good they were. They had those, I think they were called Chisholm brothers, Chisholm boys.
Right. Yep.
That were great athletes at Western Beaver. And through the years, they've had some great teams.
I think what helps Western Beaver the most, if anything, is the fact the co-op with Lincoln Park, because they were getting some studs that way, and good for them. I mean, it's put Western Beaver football on the map, where for a long time they were kind of the whipping post of everybody. You know what I mean? So.
Well, Frank, wouldn't that be something if a couple of these Beaver County schools started to merge? Kind of like
it has to. I mean, it needs to. I mean, but that's.
I mean, just looking at sports, which what we're talking about today.
Well, and we have a lot that are co-oping as well already. I mean, you have I think it's Freedom and New Brighton Soccer plays together.
Everyone does.
Yeah, you're just not seeing it at the football level yet. I think you're going to eventually.
That's been going on longer than you think.
Yeah,
because Beaver Falls never had a gym program, and I could remember in the '60s. We had some great gymnasts. That Berger girl that married Landry, the quarterback, the NFL quarterback. Her name was Christine Berger.
Yeah, I remember.
Fantastic gymnast from Beaver Falls, and she competed for another high school. And then we had the kid Ivasek, that was from Beaver Falls, that went to Rochester and competed on their gym team, and he made the Olympics in '72.
Right.
Okay, Ivasek did.
Okay.
And so that kind of stuff has been around for a while, but I think today it's really kicking in. It's really starting to pick up steam.
So we're visiting with Steve Higgins this morning. He is from the Larry Bruno Foundation, and he's making his bi-weekly visit. We're going to take a short break, and we're talking high school football right now. And what was surprising and what wasn't, I want you to think about this during the break. During the season, what was your biggest surprise team? Both ways. Team that you thought underperformed and team you thought overperformed that you weren't expecting. So we'll be back with more right after this.
Happen. You need the experience and insight of the legal team at Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George. At Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George, they have the resources available to see your case from start to finish. Attorney Larry Kelly.
At Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George, we're big boys. We assume all the costs, and we don't expect you to pay a penny. Now, what happens is if you go to trial and the verdict is not favorable, you don't owe us any fees, nor do you reimburse us the cost. Now, if we're successful, then you'll pay a fee and you'll reimburse us the cost from the recovery. That's the way we do it at LGKG, and that's the way we've done it forever.
For your initial consultation, call the law firm of Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George at 724-658-8535 or online at lgkg.com. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George, keeping promises for over 80 years.
Do you want to improve your mental health, promote small businesses, and take up a new hobby? You can do all three at NAMI's Beaver County Hobbies for Healing on Saturday, November the 16th. There will be community resources tables with mental health information and a market of local vendors selling vintage toys, crafts, video games, comic books, and records at no cost to browse. Help yourself and Beaver County this fall at the NAMI Beaver County Hobbies for Healing on Saturday, November the 16th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Beaver Valley Church of God in Beaver.
Start your day with breakfast at McDonald's. Enjoy their 2 for $5 sausage egg McMuffin. Whether you're on your way to work or on your way to school, McDonald's has the right breakfast for you. McDonald's breakfast. I'm loving it.
Here is a question that's very easy to answer. Would you rather be sold something or get professional help and advice that ultimately leads to a strategy that best suits your needs? Tom Young at First Consultants Inc. in Beaver has a unique approach that has won over the trust of even the most skeptical clients.
Everybody that's selling is looking for a profit. I focus on creating strategies that are in the client's best interest.
Ask yourself this: what have you got to lose? The answer might be a fortune. Get financial strategies instead of a pitch about a product. Visit firstconsultantsinc.com or be a part of Tom Young's live simulcast presentation on the third Tuesday of each month beginning at 9:10 a.m. on Beaver County Radio and Facebook Live. All advisory services are offered through PL Wealth LLC. PL Wealth is a federally registered investment advisor. PL Wealth is in no way affiliated with First Consultants Inc., nor is First Consultants Inc. a registered investment advisor.
Hi, folks. I'm with our good friend John Diagardi from Roe Monument. John, you were telling me earlier that people really should not rush into choosing a memorial for their loved one. Now, why is that?
We found that families need to take ample time to grieve first. Grief is not something that we get over, but rather something that we learn to live with. So the length of time to grieve varies from person to person.
You mentioned that the monument can't be placed right away.
That's right. There are certain things that need to take place before a monument can be installed. So it's really worth taking time to think about how to plan and design a memorial that truly reflects a person's life. It's actually a healing activity that helps to alleviate grief.
John, this makes a lot of sense.
It does, and when the time is right to proceed, not only can Roe Monument help families choose and design their memorial, we can help them save as much as 50% by eliminating the middleman.
Thank you, John. Folks, you can learn more simply by visiting RoeMonuments.com.
It might be time to repair or replace that old garage door. Call on Robin and her team of expert installers at Electric Garage Door Sales in Monaca. Dial 724-774-3200 and your door will work like a charm. Featuring CHI quality garage doors, LiftMaster garage door openers, and over 50 years experience, Robin and her team will get it done right. Electric Garage Door Sales. Give them a call at 724-774-3200 or find them online at electricgaragedoorsales.com.
Lincoln Park Performing Arts Center in Midland presents Oliver Jr. November 15th through the 24th. This 60-minute junior adaptation of the Dickens classic is a perfect outing for the whole family. Tickets start at just $18. Visit LincolnParkArts.org.
Attention. If you suffer from consistent pain in your joints caused by arthritis, overuse, or injury, you may be a candidate for a revolutionary therapy that could revitalize damaged tissue. This approach can provide long-lasting relief from pain in your knees, shoulders, hips, and other joints with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. To find out if you're a viable candidate, you may request a free consultation from QC Kinetics by calling 412-754-7936. Instead of masking the symptoms, it goes to the root of the problem to resolve it at its source. Already used by thousands of satisfied patients nationwide, this joint pain therapy is available right now to the public, but only for qualified candidates. Again, to find out if you're a viable candidate for this therapy, you may request a free consultation by calling QC Kinetics at 412-754-7936. That's 412-754-7936.
You're driving in the fast lane with Frank Sparks on 99.3 FM and 1230 WBVP. You can also stream live on beavercountyradio.com.
We're back here on Driving in the Fast Lane. It is now time for headline news with Noah Haswell, and then we'll have the Mangino McDonald's preview, and then we'll have more with Steve Higgins from the Larry Bruno Foundation. Still got to talk about what's going on at the Larry Bruno Foundation. We usually start out with that, and we kind of went right into high school football because we're all excited about the semifinals being this weekend. But here's Noah with headlines.
Thanks, Frank. Coming up at 9:05 on News Headlines, Republican David McCormick takes legal action in the close race for the United States Senate in Pennsylvania between him and Democrat Bob Casey. Secretary of the Commonwealth Al Schmidt has a message about the process to recount the United States Senate vote for both McCormick and Casey next week. Beaver County Radio News correspondent Sandy Giordano has a report on the teenage boy charged and arrested for bringing a gun to Ambridge Area Middle School being detained. State Representative Rob Matzey's plan to help people become more aware of pancreatic cancer during November of 2024 was approved by the Pennsylvania House, and 2 men have been arrested and charged in association with a shooting and murder in Newcastle last month. It'll be cloudy skies today with a high near 52 degrees. Tonight will be cloudy skies as well with a low of around 43 degrees. On Saturday, it'll be a high near 54 degrees. On Sunday, it'll be partly sunny skies with a high near 58 degrees. And on Monday, it'll be mostly sunny skies with a high near 60 degrees. On this Friday, November 15th of 2024 at 32 minutes after 8, we've got a temperature of 49 degrees currently in Beaver County. That's a look at news headlines. More at 9:05. I'm Noah Haswell on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP. Also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
All right, now see you Monday morning.
I will see you then.
All right. Saquon Barkley rushed for 146 yards, 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns, and the Eagles stretched their lead in the NFC East. 26-18 win over Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. And also the rivalry between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens is filled with villains on both sides. Mike Tomlin said that yesterday, and he pointed out Lamar Jackson. Well, Jackson is still waiting for his chance to become one. 7 years into his career, the Ravens quarterback has more NFL MVP awards with 2 than he does victories over the Steelers. Jackson takes his 1-3 mark against the Steelers on Sunday to Acrisure Stadium for the first-place showdown. Steelers hit another gear since Russell Wilson returned from a calf injury last month. And the Steelers are undefeated in his 3 starts, averaging over 30 points a game. Number 17, Clemson will take on Pitt at Acrisure Stadium, 12 noon kickoff. 10 o'clock will be airtime here on Beaver County Radio. And number 4, Penn State knows that it cannot take anything for granted. They're going to be playing the reeling Purdue Boilermakers this weekend, trying to keep their hopes alive for a national championship. The Columbus Blue Jackets aim to stop their 6-game losing streak tonight when they take on the Pittsburgh Penguins in Columbus. Columbus is 5-8-2 overall and a 1-1-0 record in the Metro Division. The Blue Jackets have gone 3-1-0 in games their opponents serve more penalty minutes. Pittsburgh has gone 6-9-3 overall, with a 1-3-1 record in the Metro. We will not have coverage for you of that game, however, because we will be covering high school football, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we'll get back with the Penguins tomorrow night after Pitt football. San Jose Sharks in town. And as Scott Tatey told you, it is Grateful Dead night. Airtime 6:30. Puck drop is 7 p.m. And then in the world of basketball, Robert Morris beat Stonehill 63-51 last night. Here's Mangino with this week's McDonald's preview.
I'm Mangino, and welcome to a semifinal playoff edition of the Beaver County Radio High School Football Preview, where we take a look at the upcoming games around the Beaver Valley. It's brought to you by your Beaver Valley McDonald's. I'm loving it. Last Friday was not a good night for Beaver County football teams. Aliquippa trailed 28-0 to Thomas Jefferson before closing the gap to a final of 38-21. Special teams miscues and penalties brought an end to a 16-year streak of appearances in the WPIAL finals. Quip's head coach Vashon Patrick took it as best as one can, saying streaks are meant to be broken. Beaver, who convincingly defeated Avonworth in the final game of the regular season, was defeated in an even greater fashion. The Antelopes didn't give up a point until the third quarter when they were already up 35-0. The final was 42-21. Riverside needed a repeat of their Ulster performance to beat Seton LaSalle. That didn't happen. Robbie Janis did return a block kick for a touchdown, but was held to 69 yards rushing on 17 carries. The Panthers fell 34-7. Southside's Andrew Corfield scored on a pair of short runs, and they had the lead at one point on Friday, but couldn't hold on. Bishop Canavan came back to win 17-13. Cornell was another that looked really good at first. Fort Cherry, led by phenom quarterback Matt Sieg, who is the first player in WPIAL history to run and throw for 1,000 yards in 3 straight seasons led them to a final of 27-20. Speaking of great quarterbacks, Western Beavers' Javen Peel was held in check. He went 10 for 20 for 137 and 1 touchdown. Steel Valley ran for over 350 yards to a 36-7 victory. The lone bright spots were Central Valley and Elwood City. For Central Valley, Jans Henry and Mason Dixon put the team on their backs as they rushed for a combined 27 times, 297 yards, and 4 of the Warriors' 5 touchdowns. Next up, Elizabeth Forward for the right to play at Acrisure. They will then play the winner of Imani Christian and Avonworth. Elwood City's undefeated season in advancing to this stage in the playoffs is perhaps the best story this year, if not the entire WPIAL. It was 1944 the last time Elwood City went undefeated. It was 1987 the last time the Warriors were in the semifinals. And it was 2011 the last time the Wolverines had won a playoff game. Well, last week, they survived South Allegheny. The Wolverines are going to need another great game by seniors like running back Elijah Palmer McCain, who leads the team in rushing, averaging 141 yards per game, and quarterback Chris Smiley, who is throwing for about 136 per game and has a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. They're also going to need a big game from their defense to stop South Park's leading rusher, who picked up 192 and 2 touchdowns last week against Mohawk. The number 3 Elwood City Wolverines and the number 2 South Park Eagles. The victor goes to Acrisure to face the winner of number 1 Seton LaSalle and number 4 Steel Valley. Join me with Mike Azadian in the booth, Tank Latham on the sideline. Pregame is 6:30. Kickoff is at 7, live from North Allegheny. Listen live on your smartphone by downloading the St. Barnabas Radio Network app, favorite WBVP, or on the radio, 99.3 FM and 1230 AM WBVP. The best of Beaver County football is right here on Beaver County Radio.
You're busy, no time to cook, you're hungry, and the kids are too. Don't stress. Make it a McDonald's dinner tonight. Download the app and get McDelivery.